Good morning. The Committee on Parole is called to order Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. It is 9:09 a.m. My name is Cheryl Renatz. I'm serving as chair of today's parole. Seated next to me here in Baton Rouge is Mr. Freeman, and joining the third panel member this morning is Mr. Steve Prater. He is joining us remotely. You'll see him on your screen. We are at DOC headquarters in Baton Rouge. Before we get started, I'd like to stay up here to introduce themselves for the record. All right, and our first remote location this morning is at Jefferson Parish Correctional Center. And I see Mr. Bentrum, is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any staff in the room with you?
Yes, ma'am. Deputy Turner.
All right, good morning. Thanks for accommodating us this morning, Deputy. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Bentrum, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and your DOC number.
Yes, ma'am. Jackie Bentrum, 610637.
You should have with you a parole revocation questionnaire. Do you have any paperwork with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you sign that piece of paper, the parole revocation questionnaire?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it your understanding, based on your answers to those questions, you're not eligible for appointed counsel?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you ready to proceed this morning with the revocation decision?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me just first acknowledge some others who have joined us by Zoom, all of whom want to speak in your behalf: Jessica Lee, Jamie Yates, and Doug Stewart, and we'll call on them at the appropriate time. First, Mr. Bentrum, I'm going to read the allegations against you. Enter a plea of guilty or not guilty, and then we'll talk about it. We'll hear from the folks who want to say something on your behalf before we make our decision.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're accused of violating the conditions of your parole, specifically condition number 1. You were released from DOC to a detainer August 22nd, 2023. You did not report to probation and parole until November 9th, 2023, after being released on October 30th, 2023. So how do you plead to violating condition number 1?
I'm guilty of it.
Okay, you want to say guilty with a statement, or?
Yes, ma'am.
We'll get your statement in a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Condition number 2, due to you being homeless, you were advised by your officer to report by phone once a week. You failed to report as instructed. So how do you plead to violating condition number 2?
Guilty with a statement.
Condition number 3, you advised that you were homeless to your parole officer, and you failed to inform your officer that you moved to Mississippi. So you absconded supervision on or about December 5th, 2023. So how do you plead number 3?
Guilty with a statement.
Okay, condition number 6, you failed to provide proof of employment since being on parole.
Guilty with a statement.
And condition number 9, you did not allow visits at your residence or place of employment by not reporting either information to your parole officer. Again, you absconded supervision on or about December 5th, 2023. How do you plead to violating condition number 9?
Guilty with a statement.
Lastly, condition number 10, you failed to pay supervision fees. Your arrears $504. How do you plead?
Guilty with a statement.
Right. Your case this morning has been assigned to Mr. Freeman. Would you answer his questions, please?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Mr. Benton, one question. Where are you going to live?
The lady on Zoom, that is my family, Jamie Yates. I'm gonna live there. That's where I went whenever I was living on the streets in New Orleans. Finally, after a few months, I had to do something. I informed the people I was homeless. I didn't have a phone. I literally got out of prison with nothing. And I asked for help, if they could put me in some kind of halfway house or anything. He didn't try to help me at all. So I had to make a decision best for myself. I was literally on the streets with nothing.
Okay. Where does she live?
In Gulfport, Mississippi. That's where my family is from.
Have you done any interstate compact to Gulfport?
I haven't done it yet. I was under the influence that I could do it if I like
If you
after.
grant,
Yeah, yes, sir.
I understand. You don't want to put the money up unless you're gonna be out.
Well, I mean, yeah, that would only make sense, right?
Yes, sir. Sure does. I understand that. Okay, that's the main things. I mean, you were home, and that's why you violated all the conditions. I'm sure all your statements would revert back to that being homeless.
Yes,
You got
sir.
any employment opportunities?
The man on the joining the call with us, Mr. Schutz, Doug Schutz, he's gonna help me get employed at the place where he works. He's a supervisor at like a mill where they do wood, like pulp wood and stuff there in Mississippi, and that's where I'm gonna work. It wasn't like I was just not trying to get it together, man.
Okay, but one problem, and I'm gonna tell you, you may run into interstate compact in Mississippi. They'd like you to be married. Is she kin to you at all?
Well,
I mean, I hope she's not, but I mean,
no, that's no, that's funny. No, Jamie Yates is my family, and then the other girl, Jessica, is my girlfriend. Yes.
Okay, so they'll let you go to family.
Yeah,
So,
Jamie is my family. We have the same last name. Actually, she was married to my brother.
Okay. Who's your family member? Which one of y'all is family member?
Jamie.
Can you speak?
Jamie, can you unmute, please?
Hello? Yes, I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute it.
That's fine. And how are you kin to him, Jamie?
He's my cousin.
Okay. Does he have any like brothers or sisters or mom or dad that lives anywhere near y'all?
His mom is passed away. When he was in jail, his brother passed away. And
Okay.
then my husband is his cousin, but they was raised together like brothers. And everything because he moved in with his uncle and his cousins when he was around 7, and they grew up like brothers and everything, but they're technically cousins. I married his cousin, and in December he passed away too.
Okay.
And
That's fine.
that's when
I just wanted to know. I'm just trying to make sure he's got a place to go. Okay. I work with probation, parole. I know interstate compact, and I'm a little nervous about whether Mississippi will accept this plan or not. So, my day today, my vote, when it's my turn to vote, but I'm gonna just say it right now, would be to not revoke, but in lieu of compact to Mississippi being approved. Because we don't want him back on the streets. Okay, that's just nothing but trouble. So I have no further questions.
Mr. Prater, any questions?
No, thank you.
So let me ask you this. Where did you release from, Mr. Bentrum?
I came from Raymond Laborde to Jefferson Parish, and then they released me from Jefferson Parish.
So you were housed at Jefferson, that's where you released from?
Yeah, that's why my parole was out of Jefferson Parish.
Because that's where your crime occurred?
No, it was out of Orleans Parish, but then I had a small crime in Jefferson Parish, and they gave me probation with it. I had a detainer to here.
Okay,
the judge reinstated me on that as well.
So when you were finally released, why didn't you try to go about going to Mississippi in the right way? You're saying you didn't get any assistance in that regard to help?
Right. And I did ask the man, he transferred. My parole officer was not Miss Collins at that time. It was somebody else. And I only seen him twice. And then, like I said, I was in the street, like literally under the Claiborne Bridge. So I was just down. I understand I didn't go about it the right way. I apologize for that. And
how long you been engaged to Miss Lee?
Me and Jessica, I've known Jessica about 10 years, and we've been messing with each other off and on because I've been in trouble for about 6 years.
All right, well, let's hear from her. Jessica, what would you like us to know?
Trying to figure out how to unmute.
Yeah, I think you just did.
Yeah, ma'am. Just that I've seen a lot of change in Jackie. He's definitely staying out of trouble and doing the best that he can to work and to, you know, provide for us and to take care of Jamie and me. And he's really stepped up since he's been out. So this last has been very, very difficult without him.
Thank you. And Mr. Shuitt, can we hear from you, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I've only known him for about half a year, but ever since I've known him, all he's done is help out his family and do all the best he can just to support his cousin Jamie. And so, and I'm trying to get him. I was recently I was gonna start trying to help him get employed where I'm at, because he needs a job, but they got him before I could help.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate y'all tuning in this morning. All right,
ma'am.
Jackie, I think that we are prepared to vote. Mr. Freeman will be voting first.
Okay, Mr. Beltram, yeah, I'm thinking everything's going through my mind. You know, I want to do what's best for you, but I think if I say get your place approved in Mississippi, that you'll probably sit there another 90 days for that can be approved. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna order you to work release for 6 months, not 9, for 6. And while you're in work release, get that compact approved. And after 6 months in work release, you'll be released.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Prater?
I concur with my board member, Mr. Freeman.
All right, and I do agree. Mr. Bentrum, in lieu of work release, we'll send you to a work release program that'll give you time to earn a little bit of money, get your interstate compact application in process and approved. And after 6 months, you'll be released to Mississippi once that's approved.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Is there going to be somebody to show me how to do the steps for that as well?
We're gonna take care of getting you sent to the work release.
Thank you very much.
Work release will have that information to help you, the application and all that.
I do appreciate it. I feel like that was actually that's actually a great decision, because I do need some kind of some kind of help getting back on my feet.
That's gonna help you out a lot.
All right, buddy.
Thank
Good
y'all.
luck to you.
All right, that's
thank you.
our business in Jefferson. We're gonna sign off at 9:22. Thank y'all.
Actually worked out good, Turner.
Hi, good morning. This is the Committee on Parole. We are reconvening in DeSoto Parish. It's 9:28 a.m. on Tuesday, September 24th, 2020. Is there any staff there in DeSoto that could please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Sergeant Brian Toops, DeSoto Parish Sheriff's Office.
All right, Sergeant Toops, thank you so much for accommodating us this morning. And this is Mr. Horton we have with us.
Yes,
Also.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Horton, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number, please.
My name is Leo Horton. My DOC number is 434-36333.
Say that again. The number.
4363333.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, Mr. Horton, my name is Cheryl Renatza, serving as chair of today's parole panel. This is Mr. Pete Freeman seated next to me, and you see Mr. Steve Prater on the screen, our third panel member today. You're accused of violating the conditions of your parole, but first, do you have a parole revocation questionnaire there with you? Do you have any paperwork?
Yes, ma'am.
That's your signature at the bottom of that page?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and so based on your answers to those questions, it was determined you're not eligible for appointed counsel. So are you ready to proceed with today's revocation hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm going to read the allegations against you, after which you will enter a plea of guilty or not guilty, and then we'll have a conversation about your plea before we make a decision, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you're accused of violating condition number 2. And it reads, you have failed to submit a monthly report or report to your parole officer for the months of May, June, and July 2024. How do you plead to that violation?
Not guilty.
Okay. Then, do you want to add a statement to that?
Yes, ma'am, because
We'll take the statement in a minute. I'm just going to note it's not guilty with a statement. We'll get your statement in a minute.
okay, yes, ma'am.
To do all the pleas first. Condition number 9, and it reads, your parole officer attempted to visit you at your residence, 3179 Highway 346, Pelican, Louisiana, on April 10, April 16, April 17, April 18, and April 29, 2024, with no success. You failed to respond to contact cards left at that residence or to the message left with a relative on April 29. On May 29, 2024, an attempt was made at visiting 3179 Highway 346 in Pelican, same address. And a relative reported you no longer resided at this address, resulted in a warrant being obtained June 18, 2024. So how do you plead to violating condition number 9?
Not guilty.
Condition number 10, you've not made a payment towards your supervision fee. You're currently $252 in arrears. How do you plead?
Not guilty.
And then lastly is condition number 13, which is a special condition that required sex offender counseling. And it reads, you failed to attend sex offender counseling on April 13, April 27, May 11th, May 25th, June 8th, June 22nd, and July 13th of 2024. So how do you plead to violating that condition?
Not guilty, ma'am.
Right. Your case this morning has been assigned to Mr. Prater. Would you answer his questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Horton, I may have misread this, but it said on here that you pled guilty originally to every one of these. Is that correct?
I don't remember. If it said I did, you know, I did. I think I did, I don't remember. He was going too fast, you know what I'm saying? He just said my man was messed up. He was trying to violate me because over a technical violation, and I explained everything to him, you know what I'm saying? The reason why I ain't had the money, I didn't have no job. I just lost my mom in January. I got out in February. He locked me back up in March, you know what I'm saying? And then I'm trying all the things I can, you know what I'm saying, to make ends meet.
Now, you failed to report in May, June, and July. If you was locked up in March, you was in jail. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I was in jail March. I got out in February. He locked me back up in March.
have you been in jail since March?
No, sir. I got out, but every month I come to the sheriff office every month to report to the sex offense counselor down here. But he ain't a counselor. He work over the sex offense stuff, and I come see him every month. It be recorded and everything. My parole officer be next door, and every time I ask to speak to him, he always say that he's in court, and he will.
Let's stay on track here so I don't get confused. You know all this stuff, but I don't.
Yes,
Okay?
ma'am. Yes, sir.
Not talk about sex offender stuff yet.
Yes, sir.
Okay, or sex counseling.
I'm sorry.
It says you failed to report in May, June, and July of 2024. You failed to report to the probation and parole like you were supposed to, and you originally pled guilty to that. Did you report to your parole officer in May, June, and July of 2024?
No, sir. No,
Okay,
sir. No,
so
sir.
so you are guilty of those.
Yes, sir.
Of that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, as far as where you're supposed to have lived at 3179 Highway 46, did you live there or did you just occasionally stay there? Or
No,
tell
sir.
me some-
No, sir. I live there, but like I say, I've been trying to find a job since I got out of jail. And in the times he come, I'm never at home. And every time that I do, if I miss him or whatever, I know that I see him when I come to registration. You know what I'm saying? I come every month, and he be right in the courthouse. And every time I ask to come talk to him, he say he's in court and he'll talk to me whenever he can. But I do live there. That's why I say I'm not guilty, because I do live there. I just don't be at home when they'll be coming, because I be out trying to find a job. Pay my
Did excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did he leave cards there that you know about on the 10th, the 16th, the 17th, the 18th, and the 29th?
No, sir. I haven't seen no card, because every time he came, I either be at home. If he leave a card, I always call my sister or tell me that I gotta go see him. I haven't received no call. So
Okay.
I've been doing everything right. You know what I'm saying?
No, you hadn't been doing everything right if you didn't. You already admitted that you didn't report in these months. So don't say you've been doing everything right, because you ain't been.
Well,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Okay, so you didn't see the cards. Let's move on. Do you owe $252?
I paid March.
I didn't ask you when you paid. Do you owe $252?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're guilty of that. Okay, now let's move on to the special conditions. You were supposed to go to sex offender counseling.
Yes, sir.
And you failed to attend April 13th and the 27th and April 27th, May 11th and May 25th, June 8th and June 22nd, and July the 13th. Now, did you attend those days?
No, sir.
Were you ordered to attend those days?
I told him that I ain't have a way or whatever. He said he was gonna try.
No,
to
sir.
No, sir. I ain't attend them. I went
You
down.
didn't attend them. Were you ordered to attend them?
I just know I supposed to been going. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You knew, so you were ordered to attend and you didn't attend.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Horton, the reason that you get on parole for things it's a kind of a step down from being in prison or jail. It's a step down to where you're a completely free citizen, where you don't report to anybody except yourself and God. Okay? And it's to see how well you can do abiding by the rules. And it doesn't appear that you've done that well. Would you admit to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I had, Madam
Right.
Chairman.
I got one question. You know, Mr. Horton, I got to ask this. You got 168 acres?
Yes, sir.
Well,
Yes,
why don't you sell some of that to get yourself on the right track?
That what I was working on. But the thing about this, sir, is our property, and everybody.
Oh, okay. So you don't own all of it?
No, sir. It's just our property. You know what I'm saying? But I'm trying my best. You know what I'm saying? My mama left me a trailer. She left me a truck. I was trying to sell the truck, but the truck don't work because it needed a water pump and a radiator. That's the reason why I ain't have a way to go to the self-defense classes.
Okay, I was just asking about the property, because
Yes,
if I was
sir.
in shape, if it was mine, I'd sell it.
Yeah, I
So
know.
wanna go back to jail.
I ain't trying to go
Okay.
back to jail.
All right, no further questions.
All right, anything you want to tell us, Mr. Horton? Why do you think we ought to not revoke you today?
Ma'am, I promise, if you don't revoke me today, I've been trying all I can. Like I said, I just lost my mom in January. You know what I'm saying? I don't want y'all to feel no sympathy for me, but that's the reason why I lost my mom in January. I got out in February. And I'm trying to do all the things I can, you know what I'm saying? Because if I don't pay the sex offense registration, that's automatically felony, you know what I'm saying? And I've been paying it, you know what I'm saying, making ends meet. I've been trying to pay my trailer no bill, you know what I'm saying? That's why I've been saying I've been doing yard work. It's not enough money, you know what I'm saying, to make me be able to pay everything at one time. So that's why the sheriff officer got me on a payment plan. Cause he understand, he say he'll work with me because he know I don't have a job. And I'm like I say, I'm trying the best I can, you know what I'm saying? And then being a sex offender, I can't get a certain job and I can't go to Texas, because if I go to Texas, I got to register over there. And I'm gonna have a harder time, enough time paying over here, you know what I'm saying? But I'm trying my best, you know what I'm saying? I promise you, if y'all give me another chance, I promise you that I'm gonna complete what I'm supposed to be doing. I got a ride now because my sister got a new car. You know what I'm saying? I got transportation now. And I'm gonna sell my truck and get caught up on my fees or what I'm behind and everything.
How you paying your trailer note?
Going and do yard work.
Oh, I thought your mom gave that too. Okay,
But yeah, she gave it to me. I pay the big light bill and water bill, you know what I'm
I see.
saying?
I
Yes,
see.
ma'am.
All right, I think, we're prepared to vote, Mr. Prater.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Horton, you seem like a nice fella and you're very respectful, and I appreciate that in you. And I want to assure you that if it was just that you owed $252, your parole officer would not have submitted that. That's just one of the several things that shows that you're not abiding by the rules. Our job on this parole board is to protect the general public, and part of that is to make sure that people that get out on parole abide by the rules.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's apparent that you're not, at this point, choosing to abide by quite a few rules. It bothers me very much that you have failed to attend any kind of sex offender counseling after having been given a tremendous break of parole, and you still won't abide by the rules. My vote is to revoke you.
Mr. Freeman?
Mr. Horton, I concur.
Mr. Horton, my vote also is to revoke. You know, it's unfortunate, but as Mr. Prater said, it's not just about what you owe, it's the failure to report. When you're a fourth offender, you know how important that is.
Yes, ma'am.
So, today your parole is going to be revoked. Good luck to you, sir. That concludes our business in DeSoto. It is 9:41 a.m.
So next is
All right, good morning. The Committee on Parole is reconvening at 9:46 a.m. on Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. We are at Lafayette Parish Correctional Center. And that is Mr. Collins.
Yes, ma'am.
Morning, Mr. Collins. Is anybody in the room with you? Any staff member?
Yes,
ma'am.
Would you introduce yourself for the record, please?
Deputy Joseph.
All right, thanks, Deputy Joseph, for accommodating us this morning. We appreciate it. Mr. Collins, would you introduce yourself to the parole panel? Tell us your name and your DOC number.
Yes, ma'am. How y'all doing? Good morning. My name is Robert Jamal Collins. Date of birth 3/30/95, and my DOC number is 626082.
All right, Mr. Collins, let me introduce the panel to you. My name is Cheryl Renanza. Mr. Freeman is seated next to me, and Mr. Prater you see on your screen. We are your parole panel this morning. We're here for a revocation decision. Do you have, I see you have some documents with you. Is that your parole revocation questionnaire there in front of you?
Yeah, it's like it was like my rights of parole of parolee.
Questionnaire.
And yeah, the questionnaire. Yes, ma'am.
Is that your signature at the bottom of that page, sir?
Correct.
All right. Based on your answers to those questions, Mr. Collins, it was determined you're not eligible for appointed counsel this morning. So are you ready to proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. I'm going to read the allegations against you, and then I'll ask you to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. Then we'll have a discussion about your plea before we vote. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You're accused of violating your conditions of parole, specifically condition number 3. And it reads, you moved from the address of record without providing an updated address. How do you plead to violating condition number 3?
Not guilty.
Okay, condition number 4, and it reads, on or about June 5th, 2023, you allegedly committed the criminal acts of resisting an officer, simple robbery, possession of a firearm, or carrying a concealed weapon by a convicted felon, domestic abuse, battery, and was subsequently arrested by the Lafayette Police Department. On August 5th, 2024, those charges were dismissed. How do you plead to violating condition number 4?
Not guilty.
And then condition number 5, it reads, on or about June 6, 2023, at the time of your arrest, you were in possession of a firearm, dangerous weapon. How do you plead to violating condition number 5?
Not guilty.
Lastly is condition number 6, and it reads, you failed to provide proof of employment. How do you plead to that violation?
Not guilty.
Right. Your case has been assigned to Mr. Freeman. Would you answer his questions, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so officers found you hiding in a shed?
It was a storage center, Mr. Freeman. Like how it has a rental home where you could store a washer and dryer at.
Yeah, okay. And you say you hid that because you knew you had warrants out for your arrest that you had tried to take care of?
Yes, sir. When I was at the address while I was staying there with my baby mother, she was things was getting out of hand, and I ended up leaving, but the police were swarming in the area. So we had a guy that I knew in the neighborhood, the one that signed the affidavit for the firearm. He was like, what's going on? I was like, I got some stuff I'm trying to resolve, but the police in the area looking for me or whatever. And I was like, I need to duck off. Plus it was raining. So I went under the car porch, and then he was like, you could go in there. he was like, why I go see what's going on? When I went in there, I ended up getting found by the Lafayette Police Department, and they put me in the back of the pursuit car, and they asked me some questions about the charges with the domestic and stuff, and I told him I was aware of it. That's why I hid in there, and he asked me, it was like was I was gonna get it resolved or whatever. I was like, yes, sir. That's why I try to run or whatever, because I didn't want to get caught for that. Then they went to search the area. Then they came back and said they found a firearm, but I had no knowledge of the firearm being found, where it was. I didn't even know where the gun was found. I just know that they booked me on a firearm, and later on down the line, the guy who the firearm was for, that stated in the affidavit that he signed that I had no knowledge of the firearm and that was his firearm. And when he left, he thought I stole it, but he realized I was in jail, so he signed the affidavit. That's how my charges ended up getting dismissed, Mr. Freeman.
So you knew about the gun because he thought you had stolen it. Is that what you're saying?
No, sir, that's not what I'm saying. He's saying when he's I don't really know about the affidavit. I just know that my attorney said that he stated that he left the firearm in the area, and he thought that I had stolen it because I was going and his gun was gone. But when he realized I was in jail and he got in touch with me over the screen, the Zoom, he called me on visit. We get a free 45 minutes every Sunday. And he ended up calling me on visit, and he let me know what was going on. And I told him, I'm like, man, they charged me for a gun that I had no knowledge of. And he said he was gonna sign the affidavit. So I don't really know too much about what he said in the affidavit, but I just know he got it certified, he stamped it and approved it and gave it to the DA and the judge, and they dismissed the charges. So no,
Okay,
I did not have no knowledge of the firearm, Mr. Freeman.
okay. Let's talk about when they came to arrest you. They were telling you to show your hand, and you were unwilling to do so. When they attempted to detain you, you charged at the cops, fighting to run away. They ended up having to tase you. What was all of that about?
No, yeah, absolutely. I did have my hands up when he told me to come out with my hands up. I had my hands up, but I did try to flee, Mr. Freeman, because I didn't want to go to jail, because I'm knowing the situation dealing with my health conditions, with me fighting cancer. I didn't want to go to jail and get a hold put on me, knowing that I was supposed to get these charges resolved with my baby mother. So I did try to flee, and yes, he did tase me.
Okay. And it just says that they discovered that Mr. Collins has a 9mm handgun. So, but I don't see the arrest report to say exactly where it was found.
Yeah, I never had no knowledge of a firearm, never heard about it, never seen it. I don't know what kind of gun it was, where it was. I didn't know nothing for a firearm. I told them to DNA test me, to run a swab, but they never ran my Miranda rights or nothing. They just brought me to jail. They booked me in, and that was it.
Okay. And have you been to court on these charges? What did you plead?
I never made a plea. They dismissed them, sir.
They dismissed all the charges?
Yes, sir. They dismissed the firearm, the simple robbery, the domestic, resisting the officer, and trespassing. They dismissed every last charge, Mr. Freeman.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Prater, you have any questions?
So, Mr. Collins, I'm concerned about the gun. That's the
too.
main thing. You ran from the police and you hid in a storage building. How
No,
large? Go ahead. How large was it?
It's like it originally like a storage. It's a storage center under the car porch. It's like it's under a car porch.
Under a car porch?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm a little confused. Is it big as the room that you're in right now?
It was a little bigger than that.
A little bigger than that. Was there a bunch of stuff in there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and there was a piece of plastic on the floor, correct?
I don't really know about the plastic being on the floor, so all I know is when I saw the police swarming in the area, I just went in there and I was really trying to stay from by the window so I wouldn't get seen. I didn't really even look around. I just know it had a hot water cooler, it had the wash and dryers and stuff in there, and a lot of the bags and blankets and stuff. I never really seen like everything that was in there. I wasn't even in there too too long. Like, as soon as I was in there, they swarmed in there and came and got me. I probably wouldn't even know in there no more than a minute.
There was a piece of plastic on the floor, and there was a Glock underneath that plastic. That seemed a little strange, and then you resisted arrest. I mean, like I tell everybody, part of being on parole is seeing how you can abide by the rules and stay out of trouble.
Yes, sir. And I respect that absolutely, Mr. Prater. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be a statistic and get violated for some stuff that I didn't commit and something that I did not have. I understand how it's looking, but absolutely, I did have no knowledge of no firearm, Mr. Prater. I was walking a narrow path. I just got caught up in a bad situation. I know how it looked, but no, I did not have no firearm. I did not know about no firearm. I didn't know the person put a firearm in there. You know, when he got in touch with me, he even stated that in the affidavit. I don't really know how much what he said, but I can't really even tell you too much. I know how it looked, but all I was trying to do was taking care of my business with my kids, my responsibilities on parole. I wasn't trying to waste my time. Like, I want to prosper and get a job and get things situated for when I just come off the time that I just recently did, Mr. Prater. Like, I have no knowledge of that firearm being in there. I had no knowledge of the firearm at all. Like, I didn't touch no firearm, didn't see no firearm, didn't have a firearm.
Okay. That's all I got. That's all the questions I got.
Yes, sir.
So the domestic abuse issue, what was that about?
My baby mother, she was on probation for a murder charge with one of her baby daddies. And I ended up walking way to Willow at the thing where she do her classes at. And as I'm arriving there, I'm texting her, I'm like, I'm on the way. You know, I was like, I'm walking. I was like, she was like, all right. So she ended up calling one of our friend members named Patat to pick her up. But I see them picking up, and I try to flag the car down, but I guess they didn't see me. But I called them and they answered, and I was like, Patat, did you pick Elizabeth up? Well, Liz, I was calling her Liz. He was like, no, I don't have her, but I know he picked up. So I walked all the way back to Justin Street where I was standing at the address. And once I get there, I asked Patat, like, man, you didn't see me walking. So I ain't even know she was sitting in the truck with him. So when she was sitting in the truck, I ended up walking her to her. And what I did commit, I saw her on FaceTime with a guy that was in jail that she was recently in a relationship with. But the phone that she had in her hand, it was my iPhone that I paid for her though. So I grabbed the phone and I had some words with him. And I threw the phone in the truck, but she's putting her hand on me. So when she put her hands on me, I shoved off her and I started walking off. So she like, give me my effing phone, give my effing phone. I'm like, I don't have the phone. Go find your phone. I like the phone in the truck. So she ended up running in the house and come out with a knife. So I ran from her down the street. I called my brother and asked him where was he. He was like, he in Lafayette picking this girl up from work. I'm like, can y'all pick me up because Liz tripping again? So they picked me up and I shot to New Iberia. Once I shot to New Iberia, her mother then was calling me. She was like, son, I don't know what's going on, but can you bring the phone back? I'm like, Miss Demetra, I don't have the phone. So I explained to her what happened. And so it's like, Liz, if you're doing that, that's messed up because Jamal is a good guy or whatever. And, you know, like y'all shouldn't be arguing about no phone, but we is trying to find a phone. So she ended up finding the phone the next day in Patat truck, but she already had called the police and said what she said.
All right, I got it. All right, I think we are prepared to vote, Mr. Freeman.
Yeah, I'm glad to vote. Mr. Collins, you know, the thing about it is you're on supervision, you've been on supervision, you knew you had pending charges. You claim you went to try to take care of them, but it didn't happen. So then when the cops come for the other thing, you take off and run. They had to tase you. So I find you in violation of conditions. I think you had a firearm personally. I mean, nobody hides a firearm in their shed that's not locked. I mean, that's just not too smart anywhere. So I find you in violations of conditions number 3, 4, and 6. And my vote today is to revoke.
Mr. Prater?
Concur, revoke for the same reasons.
Mr. Collins, I do agree. Based on our discussion today, I also find you guilty of violations of condition number 3, 4, and 6. So my vote today is to revoke your parole. Good luck to you, sir. That concludes our business in Lafayette. We're going to sign off at 10:01.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. The Committee on Parole is reconvening. We're at St. Tammany Parish Jail at 10:06. It is Tuesday, September 24th. Good morning, sir. I see you having to move around. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself for the record? I can't, you're on mute.
My name's Corporal Jonathan Lott.
All right, Corporal Lott, thank you. I see you having to you're rearranging your equipment.
Yes, who do y'all want first?
Jason.
All right. I'll go grab them real quick.
All right, thank you.
Get this so they don't.
He's always got to move around in his facility. He's so accommodating, but he has to move from place to place.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Did you
he
hear?
does.
He looked like he got on a little cart.
He's on
so
a cart, he is. Usually, he's running. He's
He's
real
trying.
accommodating.
Hmm.
They're gonna ask you if that's your signature and all this is correct. All right?
Yes, sir.
All right, good morning. Jason, is that you?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Could you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and your DOC number, please.
My name's Jason Migliore. My DOC is 585370.
All right, Mr. Migliore, my name is Cheryl Renatza, serving as chairman of your parole panel today. Seated next to me is Mr. Pete Freeman, and on the screen there, you'll see Mr. Steve Prater. We are your parole panel today. You are represented by counsel. Counsel, I'd like you to introduce yourself, please, for the record.
Yes, Chairman. Keith Couture, attorney at law, on behalf of Mr. Migliore.
Okay, thank you. And also joining us today by Zoom is your father, Loretto Migliore, and your fiance, Jewel Singletary. They want to speak, both of them want to speak on your behalf, and we'll ask them to do so. First, Mr. Migliore, I'm going to read the allegation against you, ask you to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty, and then we'll hear from, we'll have a discussion with you about your plea. We'll hear from your family members and ask Mr. Couture to close it out for us at the end with his presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Before we go. So do you have a parole revocation questionnaire with you?
Yes, ma'am.
That's your signature at the bottom?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And Mr. Couture is retained counsel?
Yes, ma'am, he is.
So we're ready to proceed this morning.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're accused of violating condition number 4 of your parole conditions. And it states that on April 25th, 2023, you were arrested by the U.S. Marshal Service for aggravated kidnapping and simple battery in New Orleans and booked in Orleans Parish Prison. On July 11th, 2024, you pled guilty to false imprisonment. So how do you plead to violating condition number 4?
Kind of confused. I guess I did get arrested, so I would be guilty of that, I guess. I guess would be to say that I did get arrested and I did plea out.
All right, so you plead guilty to the arrest, and I do say that you do have the plea to false imprisonment. Your case this morning has been assigned to Mr. Prater. Would you answer any questions he has, please?
Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right. Let me ask you, well, Madam Chairman, do I need to do this before we hear what his witnesses say?
Sir, I'm sorry. We'll go ahead and hear from his witnesses. And first, we'd like to hear from Mr. Migliore, Mr. Loretto Migliore. I think y'all are on mute still. There we go.
There I go.
Go
Yes,
ahead,
ma'am.
sir. Go ahead, sir. What would you like us to know?
I'd like to say my son has been locked up for 13 months because of this fabricated and fraudulent case that Mr. Singletary has brought against me and my son, because I revoked his bonds due to the fact that he stole my car toter trailer with the intention of fleeing to California, as per his accomplice has stated. During Signatary's stay here, he showered and had dinner at my son's house and was seen walking around my property on his phone. That doesn't sound like someone who was supposedly chained up with guns on him. Nevertheless, my only objective is to have my son home where he belongs.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much. Is Miss Jewel there with you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Terry, we'd like to hear from you, ma'am.
I just want to say that, since Jason came home in February, he and I have attended Narcotics Anonymous 3 to 5 times a week. We were going to do H&I at hospitals and institutions. He sponsors other addicts in recovery, along with myself. I sponsor other addicts in recovery. and he was doing really good. We were in the process of building our house, starting our business up, and we just would like to see him come home. That's all I got. Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you. Mr. Couture, is there anything you'd like to add at this point?
Yes, if I could, just to clarify a few things. Mr. Migliore was arrested and retained me. Upon reviewing the evidence I discussed with the district attorney over 6 months, we got several witnesses to speak to the district attorney. He did additional investigation besides just the alleged victim's statement. In doing so, that's where the district attorney decided to reduce all the charges down to misdemeanors. At that point, we contacted probation and parole, advised them of the reduced charges. They agreed to allow Mr. Migliore to get out on bond. He got out on bond. He was placed on an ankle monitor. We then, of course, negotiated with the district attorney, and because of obviously the amount of money that this cost Mr. Migliore, he was just interested in resolving this matter. So therefore, upon having the opportunity for him to plead to a misdemeanor of false imprisonment without any violence against a person, we contacted probation and parole, where it was not advised that it would be a revocable offense, and he entered that plea for credit for time served. We notified the parole officer, received no communication whatsoever that was in any way not appropriate, until 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, he was called in for a check of his ankle monitor and subsequently arrested. He would not have pled if he was told that it was a revocable offense. We did state, I'm not sure if the agent who did the preliminary put that in the record that was sent to y'all, but we did notify them that if it was necessary, we would file for his plea to be withdrawn. However, Mr. Migliore has paid thousands of dollars over this incident. He has basically, he has tapped out. His business is auto paint. He gets some jobs, he does the auto paint, then he gets arrested. He has to give all that money back. He cannot earn any money. He then goes back again. He gets out on bond. He thinks things are going well because obviously why would they let him out if he was going to be revoked? He does everything he's supposed to do, starts up his business again, gets with his fiancée. They start building a house, thinks he's resolving everything, and then again, he's put back in. His business is now over. He has to give all the money back for the jobs that he collected again. We are just trying to get to the best possible resolution. As you heard from the two witnesses, Mr. Migliore was doing very well, and I'm sure you have the entire file there. His issue was simply he knew about this person who was a friend of his. He saw him at a location when he knew his father was going to surrender him. He notified his father. This person was taken into bondsman custody. At that point, as happens with a lot of times, don't surrender me. I'll make arrangements. I'll go ahead and get you the money. I'll get the camper back for you. I'll do this. And that's why the time happened. And so again, that's why after 6 full months of investigation, the DA knew this was not an aggravated kidnapping. This was not that of an offense, and therefore it was reduced. And it was only pled to because we thought that was the quickest and easiest way to allow Mr. Migliore to get back out and continue his life and his debt to society through parole. And I'll have some closing remarks after any other questions or whatever. Thank you.
All right, sorry. Mr. Prater?
I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I've got some questions to ask.
Yes, sir.
When you saw this fella, Singletary, at the burger stand, and you knew he was wanted by your father to be surrendered, did you approach him?
Yes, sir. I called my father first, and I told him I was there where he was, and I approached him and I told him that my father wanted to see him.
Did y'all have to fight at that point?
No, there was no fight. I stopped him from getting in the truck. There was no fight, no fist thrown or nothing like that. He's like, Jason, we're friends. He's like, let's go inside, get something to drink. The person he rode with then left from there. We went inside to get something to drink, and that's when my dad and my brother arrived, and they took him into custody.
Why was there a 911 call from that place?
Because we was arguing. It was just an
Oh,
argument.
so it wasn't, hey, okay. Did you know at that time that the trailer had been stolen?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I knew it was stolen. There was a police report made.
And you knew that Mr. Singletary was the suspect in the stolen trailer?
Yes, sir. I did. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you pull up at the burger place or whatever, you see Mr. Singletary, you know that he's a suspect in the trailer theft that belonged to your father. And then you knew that your father wanted to surrender him on this bond. What gave you the authority to do that? Do you work for your father as a bondsman?
I'm not a bondsman, no, sir. I've helped him with the business, but it's being on parole. I'm not supposed to do none of that, which I didn't know that, there was no fight. I just was like, I can't believe that you stole the trailer. And he started laughing about it. I was like, Mike, why would you do that? And that's all the argument consisted of. I told him I done called my dad. He's on his way up here. And he was, I guess, he looked like he was on something. So we went inside and get something to drink. It was only an argument. And that's when my dad got there. And when my dad got there, I believe is when 911 was called. Is when my dad got there.
You pled guilty to the simple battery, though.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, you were found innocent of the simple battery.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. And then y'all took him to whose residence?
My father took him to their office, which is at my dad's. His office is built above his house, and he has an office there to gather his paperwork.
So instead of surrendering him, y'all took him to your dad's residence / office.
Well, yeah, I guess my dad had to get his paperwork. I don't, and all of that. So that's where he keeps the paperwork and their bonds and all of that. They have to, you'd have to ask my father, but they have to go there, I guess, to get their papers from when they bond him out to, to jail.
I'm thinking y'all are a bondsman is under the same rules that law enforcement. We have to take them directly to the jail. We can't be stopping here and there, but I'm not sure of that, and that's not germane to what we're talking about even. Okay,
yes,
so you're not a bondsman.
No, sir.
But you acted kind of like one. But then another thing concerns me is we got video of you handcuffing this guy in the basement, was it?
No, sir, it wasn't in the basement. No, sir.
Okay, but you're handcuffing him around a pole.
It was inside of the shop, and it wasn't like what it appears, because he was actually the one wanting to be handcuffed, and excuse me, and he had the key. And then when you see the video, it's like 10 minutes later, I walked in there, I'm like, Mike, are you serious? And I threw him the key and he undid it. And then, I went and got us dinner and everything. It wasn't nowhere near what the police report stated or anything like that. That's why everything was reduced, dropped, simple battery was thrown out, none of that. And then I pled out to the false imprisonment because I just wanted it over with. Now, according to my attorney, I could have beat all of that if we went to court, but that's up to my attorney. I just didn't want to spend thousands and thousands of more dollars if I could plea out to something that didn't, if it didn't revoke me. I'm a different man today, sir. I go to meetings. I live a different life. I have a checkered background, and that's.
But Jason, you seem like a nice fella and all that, but in what world do you think this was okay to do, especially knowing that he was a suspect? And let's be honest with you.
Yes,
he became a suspect, and then the idea was to surrender him.
Oh, no,
Okay,
sir. My dad, I don't, go ahead, I'm sorry, I apologize.
that's okay. I want to hear, anything that you got to say, but in what world do you think that somebody on parole should be doing something like this? And then you move to the office residence in the garage or whatever, the shop area. And in what world is it okay for somebody on parole to be handcuffing somebody and he stayed there overnight? I've never heard of that before. I mean, that's dog bounty hunter kind of crap. I mean,
Yes, sir.
you can't do that, especially if you're on parole. And you're wanting us to believe this guy had the key and wanted to be handcuffed.
And he did. There's also audio. If they would have listened, if they listened to the audio, you could hear him in the background saying it. Look, I want your dad to feel comfortable. He was crying. He did not want to go to jail with another theft because he faced several thefts. He actually begged that please let me stay the night. And when my sister calls in the morning, I'll get her to send the money to cover the trailer. That way I don't get the trailer theft. And I was
Okay,
like,
so that brings up another interesting point.
yes, sir.
We're actually holding somebody until they pay for a trailer that they stole.
Well, no, as a friend, as knowing him, I did it because I felt sorry for him. I didn't want to see him with another charge. I know the guy. I painted rims on his car and whatnot. I wasn't trying to do anything wrong. And for what my part of it is, and it's I did spend 11 months in jail, and I'm back in jail for another 2 months, I believe it is now. I have looked at my part. I do have a part in everything that happens in my moments and experiences in life. I'm not going to say I was totally right. I admit that I have my wrongdoing, and I feel that I paid that back, and I've learned a very valuable lesson. I just hope the parole board can understand, that I'm not perfect, and I am doing better, and I'm striving every day to make any wrongs that I've made right through life. I'm not saying I made every right decision that day, because believe me, maybe I didn't. I know I haven't, or I wouldn't be sitting here before the board today. I know I'm gonna make different decisions. I'm gonna continue with my recovery program. I'm gonna continue doing H&I. I'm gonna continue going to meetings, and I want to be there for my family. I see my wrongs. And sometimes people do make mistakes, and I admit to that. But since that incident and since my times in jail, I've changed even more since then. So I admit to my part in any doings, and I've been in jail. I've got to look at it from all angles and both ends. So I'm not like I said. I know that I have a part to play in everything, and I'm not saying I was right in all my decisions.
Madam Chairman, that's all the questioning I have.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, we see no other questions on the board. Mr. Couture, you want to close it out for us?
Yes, Chairman. Thank you. I think Jason put it perfectly. He understands that he made some mistakes. Jason is someone the type of person that I represent all the time. They're on parole, they're on probation. In the moment, his father is a friend of his, Mr. Singletary. He's known him for a while. He sees him at a restaurant. Hey, Mike, my dad's looking for you. We got you on video taking the trailer. Yeah, but yeah, help me out. Let me get you the money. Let me get you the trailer back. If he calls me, of course, I'm going to tell him, you can't be involved. Your dad should not take this guy to his house and hold him for 24 hours. Even if he's begging, let me get money, let me do this, let me pay you let me stay out on bond. Neither one of them should have done that in a perfect world. But we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a world where your dad runs a business. You can't be involved in it because of the parole, but you can call him if you see somebody. You see a friend, you can talk to your friend. You can tell your friend, my dad's coming. Do you want him to chase you? Do you want to just wait here for him? Well, I didn't, argument breaks out. They're talking, get a drink. That's what we have here. I was hired to explain, to find the witnesses, to find the people that helped him take that trailer, who of course didn't want to talk, but we got them to talk to the DA so that the DA would know this really happened, that these things happen. Ultimately, what I've spoken to Jason about and what we would like this committee to do is to find that since this is not a felony, that this is a misdemeanor, that this would be at most a technical violation. He has served, as he said, almost 13 months in jail for something that what all of the actions were by his father. His father took him to custody. His father was the bondsman. The only thing I would point out, Mr. Prater said, y'all took him back. Jason did not take him back anywhere. That was all his father and his brother, the actual bondsman. The only time Jason got involved was when he first saw him and then when he was at the property. But again, that was his house. That's where his dad lives. That's where he was visiting again. But Jason obviously should have erred on the side of, I'm on parole. I can't have anything to do with anything, even though this guy's my friend. Even though what I'm doing is good intention, I can't be involved in this. So therefore, we would ask that this committee either not revoke him, reinstate his parole, send him out, or find that it's a technical violation and give him credit for the time that he has already served. Thank you.
So, when was Mr. Migliore detained? My record shows July 26th of this year.
That's when he was detained after his plea. He was originally detained April 25th, and Jason may remember, were you bonded out in January of this year? March of this year, he bonded out. So from April of 23 to March of 24, he was then out on his ankle monitor until July 26 because he entered his plea on July 11th.
Thank you for that clarification. I think we're prepared to vote. Mr. Prater?
Ma'am, I don't think there's any way this is a technical violation. I'm not sure, but I don't think it is. And, you know, I'm not going to lecture you, but you make bad decisions, you end up in prison. You do good, make good decisions, and you're allowed out on parole. And then with a microscope or a magnifying glass, we look at the decisions that you make to see while you're on parole, if in fact you should be out on parole. There are so many, or there's such bad decisions here that anybody could recognize. Now, I want to make it very clear. I don't like a thief. I don't like this fella, the fact that he stole the trailer. But there's so many wrong things about somebody that's on probation that I can't overlook this. My vote is to revoke.
Mr. Freeman?
You know, first off, you're a fifth felony offender. Don't even try to look at me. I've been in probation, parole for 35 years and tell me you didn't know you shouldn't have been doing what you were doing. I mean, you don't handcuff anybody. And this isn't even close. My vote is to revoke.
I do concur with my colleagues for all the same reasons. I find him guilty of violating the conditions of his parole, and my vote is to revoke his parole. Thanks for participating.
Excuse me, ma'am. Do I get all the credits that I've been in jail?
That's gonna be a question for them.
All right, Corporal Lott, we'll just take whoever is most convenient for you next. You tell us. You didn't hear us?
All right, we're gonna have up Mr. Ryan Banks next.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Also with us is my captain, Captain Galloway.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. All right, so they're gonna ask you if all this is still accurate and if that's your signature, okay?
All right, good morning. Mr. Banks, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number. I think y'all are on mute still, maybe?
Ma'am,
Yes. Would you tell us your name and your DOC number?
Ryan Leo Banks, DOC number is 585472.
Did you say Ron or Ryan?
Ryan Leo Banks,
Because I think we have you as Ryan, but I think your name is correctly is Ron.
yes, ma'am, correct.
Right. Okay, let me introduce us to you. My name is Cheryl Renanza, serving as chairman of your parole panel this morning. Seated next to me is Mr. Pete Freeman, and you see Mr. Steve Prater there on your screen. He's joined us remotely. We're here. Do you have a revocation questionnaire there with you?
Yes, ma'am.
That's your signature at the bottom of that page.
Yes, ma'am.
So based on that information, sir, it was determined you're not eligible for appointed counsel. So are you ready to proceed with the revocation hearing this morning?
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to acknowledge that your girlfriend, Wendy Knapp, is also here with us on Zoom, and she's asked to speak on your behalf, and we'll ask her to do so at the appropriate time. First, I'm going to read the allegations against you, and I'm going to ask you to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. And then we'll have a conversation about it after we hear from Miss Wendy. Mr. Banks, you're accused of violating the conditions of your parole, specifically condition number 2, and it states you failed to report to your supervising agent since August of 2022. Your agent has made numerous attempts by phone, residence visit, and mail to make contact with you, and was unable to do so. How do you plead to violating condition number 2?
I plead Guilty for a reason.
Guilty with a statement, and we'll get
Yes,
your
ma'am.
statement.
I
So
wasn't,
that's okay. We're going to ask you about it in a minute.
yes, ma'am.
Condition number 9, and it reads you absconded on or about August 10th, 2022. Same thing. Agents made numerous attempts by residence check, phone, and mail to make contact with you. Electronic records check on June 18, 2024 indicate you had an address in Texas. So how do you plead to violating condition number 9, absconding?
Guilty with a statement.
And the last one is you have failed to make a single payment towards your supervision fees. You're currently $3,719 in arrears. How do you plead to violating number 10?
Guilty with a statement.
Okay, and we'll get your statement in a minute. We want to hear from Miss Wendy Knapp first. We did get your several letters from you, Wendy. So what would you like us to know today?
Hi, I just wanted to reiterate essentially, wanted to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today in support, and just sincerely ask that you consider granting him the chance to continue his journey of growth outside of incarceration. I would say, over the past year and a half since I've known him and we've been together, he has grown incredibly, I would say, professionally and personally. He's worked really hard to turn his life around. He's made so much progress. I'm so proud of him. And it really would be devastating to watch all of his hard work and dedication go to waste and for him to have to start over. And so I do acknowledge that he's made mistakes and messed up in the past, but I am confident that if he is given this opportunity, he will continue to grow and contribute positively to his family, to the community, and that he would make the most out of this second chance.
So, Ryan, your case has been assigned to me, so I would like you pled guilty with a statement on all accounts. So tell us, what is your statement?
My statement was basically I was basically forced to leave. I couldn't pay no rent, couldn't keep my phone bill on, no job because of COVID-19 was going around. I didn't have nowhere else to stay. The person I was staying with basically put me outside, basically homeless. I couldn't pay nothing until I moved to Texas and got a job as security. I got my social security, my driver license, my birth certificate. I was getting back to a normal person. I got my kids I was looking out for. I couldn't do nothing at the time when I was staying down here. I was basically forced to leave. I had no help support. Now I'm at the time of my life, I got help support. I could communicate. I could pay parole fees. I could visit. I could do whatever it takes to get this done.
So, when I look at the record, Mr. Banks, I see that you're a third felony offender. Now, who lived at the arrest on Peoples Avenue?
My mother.
And what happened? You said that's the address on your release certificate. You were not staying there initially?
I was staying up. They had moved. I had got my parole moved to my grandfather's house. I couldn't stay with my mother no more. He had too many people staying in the house. I had nowhere to stay there.
So why get put out? You said you got put out. You didn't have anywhere to go because you got put out and nowhere to go. Why were you put out?
The landlord sold the house. So my mama didn't have nowhere to stay at the time neither. So she wound up going somewhere. We wound up moving separate ways. The landlord sold her house while she was renting it. And I went
right. She said you moved from your mom's and you went to the grandfather's. So he put you out?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm
sorry.
Why did he put you out?
I couldn't afford to help him pay the rent. And I had promised him I would pay.
So you said the reason you didn't have, you were homeless and you couldn't do anything, you had no support system because it was in the middle of COVID. But according to what I see, it looks like you absconded in 2022 and we were done with COVID then. We weren't in lockdown anyway.
Oh, well, that was the last time, then when I got put out around that time, COVID, I was basically homeless, so I didn't know how long it was going on for. I'm sorry. But I didn't leave purposely. The honest truth.
All right, so it seems to me you started avoiding, it's clear you were avoiding your responsibilities for supervision. It's clear to me. And it looks to me like you started avoiding supervision. Ms. Knapp said you and she have been together about 1.5 years. So that's when you really started actively avoiding supervision, around the time you got together with her. Now, her information that she submitted indicates that you were informed in November of last year, November 23, somehow Texas police advised you of a Louisiana warrant, and y'all came to Louisiana and tried to straighten it out, figure out what was going on. Now, you're a third offender. You knew, she may not have known, but you knew that you just needed to call your parole officer. I think you were out of New Orleans district. I'm not sure where the detainer was. I'd have to look, but you knew that you just needed to call your parole officer. Why didn't you do that?
Correct. I called, I knew my parole officer at the moment. I had called New Orleans and they said I ain't seen nothing on me. So when I tried to contact the parole officer, they said he had wound up quitting, and they had given me another parole officer that's out here in Covington, Louisiana now. It's my first parole officer, I met him one time, and after that he just went MIA. But I have no phone for him to call me. And the address I was staying at, he ain't come visit me after I left. Then when I guess he was trying to contact me. But I was trying to take care of this. When I was out, as you know, in 23, I called New Orleans. They didn't see where the warrant was coming from. If they would have told me it was out here, I would have came, got the situation situated.
And you're a third offender. You know the rules of supervision.
That's why I was trying to clear this up. I ain't know nothing about Covington because I was in Bogalusa, and they tell me that's Washington Parish. I ain't know about Covington or St. Tammany. I have no idea about this area. I was trying to take care
So
of.
tell us about your employment. You said you were working.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a head chef. I create my own hot sauce, and I do security. And I work at I'm the head chef in meats, seafood, and grilled in Galveston, Texas, in Jamaica Beach.
We did get a letter from the employer. And I will say this, I don't see anywhere where you got in any additional trouble. No new arrests. You know, you didn't, obviously were not involved in illegal activity. These are some of the things I'm concerned about. You know the rules.
Yes, ma'am. That's why I'm trying to take care of it. I'm sorry.
You have never paid one thing on your fees, even though you were released in 2019 and you absconded in 2022. Now that was during COVID. I can understand some of that, but you never attempted to pay any of your supervision fees, and you knew that responsibility. Then this happened, and it cost the state over $3,500 to extradite you back to Louisiana.
I could definitely pay everything I owed at the moment, because at that time I didn't have nothing going on. I ain't couldn't get a job. I couldn't pay a phone bill. I couldn't pay rent. But now I can pay my parole fees, everything I owe. I got a phone that stay on, and I can always communicate or visit how I was worried. Now I'm at the time of my life, but I can do everything I can do what I couldn't do at the time.
So let me ask you this. Do you have any immediate family members in Texas?
No, ma'am.
So the only way you can go to Texas is by the rules, and that's with the interstate compact. And they don't accept you unless it's a family member. You have to be with a family member. So I'm not sure how that's an option for you at this point.
That's understandable. I got my mom, she's staying in Mamou, Louisiana now. In Mamou, Louisiana.
In Mamou, you said?
Yes, ma'am. Mamou, Louisiana.
So what's your plan?
If I got released, I will move to my mom's house until I got to figure out about the Texas address. So I could get back to continue working and continue taking care of my family.
All right, I'm going to defer to my colleagues for their questions. Mr. Freeman?
Okay, first off, Mr. Banks, you know, if what Ms. Renata is saying is that you do have to apply for interstate compact to go to Texas.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm like her, they highly likely not to accept it because it's not immediate family member. But being that you have employment and you do have your fiance there, they may consider. I don't know. The bottom line is that you got to report to the probation officer. You got to keep up with them.
Yes, I understand.
You know, I think you have a little help now with your fiance. Maybe she could keep you straight and make sure you do all of these things. But the bottom line is to be successful, you're gonna need to be with her and with your kid. So if you go to your mom's, you still have to apply for interstate compact. That is an alternative that we can think about. You did have no criminal violations, but as stated, you did know the rules. I mean, you should have done better than you did.
Yes,
So
I'm sorry.
no further statement.
Mr. Prater?
No questions?
All right, Mr. Banks, anything else you'd like to say to us?
Yes, I would like to say that I'm sorry for messing up, and I do understand the reason why I'm here, and I hope y'all understand I really try to take care of this situation, but I couldn't do nothing at the time. Like, I ain't have no health support system, nobody try to help me go see my parole officer, nobody try to help me pay my phone bill, nobody try to help me get money for rent, nobody try to
Well,
help
all that's on you. You can't necessarily rely on others. That's all on you.
That's
I
correct.
think we're ready to vote, Mr. Banks, and let me tell you, because there's no new criminal activity, my vote would be do not revoke, but you have to go to your mom's to work out your interstate compact to Texas, and hopefully they'll approve that. And I will add as a requirement that you do pay the cost of extradition.
Yes, ma'am.
And work out a payment plan for your fees. I mean, you can work out a plan to catch up on your fees and keep those current. But within 6 months, you need to pay the cost of extradition.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, there's a process to go through the interstate compact, and it depends on how the vote goes today, but your new parole officer and your mom will be able to help you work through them. That's my, Mr. Freeman.
Okay, Mr. Banks, I agree with Ms. Renata. No new criminal violations. You seem to kind of be heading in the right direction right now. This could be your last chance. So you need to, when you get out of that, you got to call New Orleans or go to New Orleans, because they got to initiate a transfer to Mamu.
Yes, sir.
To get you probation transferred down there. And then the minute you get there, start interstate compact to Texas, because that's going to take about 30 to 60 days minimum.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is it. Last chance. My vote is not to revoke, to go to Mamu.
Mr. Crater.
Sorry, I've got to vote to revoke. On behalf of all of the parole and probation officers that chase people around, you've been out for 2 years. We didn't know where you were. 2 years. 2 years you didn't pay anything. 2 years you didn't keep up with us. And now you're blaming others for not having given you the support to do that. It doesn't take a home. It doesn't take anything to make a phone call. And there's jobs out there to be had. And there were jobs out there to be had for the 2 years that you were absconding from what you were supposed to be doing. So I'm sorry to tell you this, Mr. Banks. My vote is to revoke you. I would revoke you if it was up to me.
That's understandable, but I definitely tried everything I could.
All right.
No, sir. No, sir. I don't want to hear that. You didn't try everything that you could do.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Banks, you've received 2 votes to revoke your parole, 1, as you've heard, from Mr. Prater to revoke. So the majority is do not revoke, so that's the decision today, do not revoke, and you've heard those stipulations. And as Mr. Freeman said, this is it, no more chances.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
You definitely understand that. So the phone got released.
Ronald. What better than you? 37. All right, when you get back, I'm going to read the shit 38. Okay. You're welcome.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Belton. I think y'all are on mute still. Mr. Belton, could you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and BOC number.
My name is Calvin Glenn Belton, 334-0.
All right, Mr. Belton, let me introduce the panel. My name is Cheryl Renatza. Mr. Pete Freeman is seated next to me. Mr. Steve Prater's on your screen. He's joining us virtually. You're here for a revocation decision. I think you have a parole revocation questionnaire there in front of you on the desk.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that your signature at the bottom of that page?
Yes, ma'am.
And based on the information you provided on that questionnaire, you're not eligible for appointed counsel today. So are you ready to proceed this morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. You're accused of violating the conditions of parole. So I'm going to read the allegations against you to ask you to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty, and then we'll have a conversation about it.
Not guilty.
No, wait, I gotta read you the allegation. First, it says, it's condition number 4, and it says you engaged in criminal activity on or about November 7th, 2023 by committing the offense of battery of a dating partner. You were subsequently arrested for the offense of battery of a dating partner by the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office on November 7th, 23. On July 22nd, 2024, a judge's trial was held where you were found guilty of battery of a dating partner, and you were sentenced to serve 6 months in parish jail with credit for time served. So how do you plead to violating condition number 4?
Really not guilty.
Okay, we'll talk about it in a minute. Next one is condition number 10, and it states you failed to pay your supervision fees as directed, and according to our records, you're $702 in arrears. How do you violating condition number 10?
I was paying that off when I was getting paid,
Guilty, not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty. Okay, so your case was assigned to me, so I'll start the questions. You pled not guilty to violating condition number 4, the criminal activity, battery of a dating partner. Tell us why. Why'd you?
The girl first called the police on me. I ain't put my hands on her. And she called the police, but I couldn't stop her from doing that because she used my phone to do it with. And really, it wasn't because I'm kind of nervous right now, but I ain't put my hands on the girl. She lied on me. She been talking about threatening to call the police on me and all this because I wouldn't give her money to buy dope and stuff with. And she always calling the police on me. And, I was doing good out there. I had a job, I thought I was doing good for myself, just trying to stay out of trouble. Because, I done enough time in prison behind, I ain't gonna say the word, but, behind bull crap.
Okay, so you've been in jail since November 2023. So you say nothing happened, but why did they, when the police got there, the police reports indicate that the deputies noted the laceration on the top of her head. She was actively bleeding and she had a bruise on her forehead.
Well, I ain't never put my hands on her. When I just left for how I acted. What's wrong with you? She wouldn't tell me. She wouldn't even open up the door for me. I left.
Right. Well, that's not how the information that we have. I understand now. She's now deceased, but the record indicates that you refused to leave. There was a verbal altercation that turned physical. You had a trial before a judge. The judge found you guilty of battery on a dating partner. That's what I have in front of me. So tell me about your fees. You were trying to tell me something about why you're behind on your fees.
Why behind on my fees? Because I was paying it off when I got, I thought my mama was doing it for me at first. Then when I got paid, when I get my income tax, I was paying it off like that, like I done it the first time. That's why I was behind, because I was gonna do my income tax this year, but I ended up getting locked up.
Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions, Mr.
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Prater.
Why you got on parole, because that's not our business to do today. But when you mentioned you spent enough time in jail on bull crap.
Yeah. The charges they had me on, that's why I say I've done enough time in jail. I've done leasing. I don't know how much time it was, 20 years or something like that. And it was really, I was locked up bad on that. See, that's why I'm saying I don't want to get locked up, do time behind this, because if I do time, I'll come home, I'll be 70-something years old.
Okay.
I had a good job. I had a good job out there, working good, doing good, staying out of trouble, and then all of a sudden this come up.
Okay, that's all I have, Madam Chair.
All right, Mr. Belton, anything else you want to say to us before we vote?
I'm just saying, I hope y'all look in my behalf or whatever.
All right, Mr. Belton, I think we're ready to vote, and I'll be voting first. Based on the evidence in the record, my vote today, I find you guilty of violating both condition number 4 and number 10. My vote today is to revoke your parole. Mr. Freeman?
I concur with that recommendation.
Mr. Prater?
Concur.
Mr. Belton, today your parole has been revoked. We wish you well. We're gonna, that concludes our business in St. Tammany. We're gonna sign off at 11:09.
I gotta do 20 years? Boy.
Record. That's swap six.
For what? For what?
All right, good morning. The Committee on Parole is reconvening. We are at BOSSIER Parish. It is Monday, September 24th, 2024. The time is 11:11 a.m. Would the staff and BOSSIER please introduce yourself for the record?
My name is Jessica Brazil. I'm with the Steve Will program.
We have Mr. Murray. Mr. Murray, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
Armando Murray, 387805.
Mr. Murray, let me introduce the panel to you. My name is Cheryl Renatza. Mr. Freeman is seated to my right, and you see on the screen Mr. Prater on Zoom. He's joining us virtually. Would you introduce yourself? Well, you already did, Mr. Murray. I'm sorry. We're going to have you have counsel, and she is here with us in the room in Baton Rouge. We'll ask her to introduce herself for the record.
Adrienne Hutchinson, attorney for the Louisiana Parole Project, here on behalf of Mr. Armando Murray. And I'll reserve my statements for the report today.
Thank you very much. Also joining us by Zoom, we have Mr. Kerry Myers with the Parole Project, Ricardo Stevenson, your uncle and godfather, and Gwendolyn Stevenson, your aunt. And Mr. Meyer and Mr. Stevenson want to speak on your behalf, so we'll ask them to do so at the appropriate time, Mr. Murray. First, let me just read the identifying information into the record. You've been through this process before, so you know how it goes. Mr. Murray, you're classified as a first felony offender, currently serving a life sentence. You were sentenced in Jefferson Parish in 1997. You received a life sentence for first-degree rape, 20-year sentence for aggravated oral sexual battery, and 25 years for armed robbery. You had a parole eligibility date, which was September 13th of 2021, and you don't earn good time. Now, for the record, let me just state this is a subsequent parole hearing. You were granted parole in September at a hearing in September 10th, 2023. Conditionally, and that conditions were that you must enroll and complete in the Steve Boyle Substance Abuse Program. our records indicate, or my record indicates that, it took a little longer than we anticipated, or that panel anticipated. You didn't start the Steve Hoyle program until 7 months later, I believe, in April of 24, and you recently completed it in July. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the reason we're here today is because any action by the parole board has to occur within 9 months of the decision date. And so you went beyond the 9 months. So we had to rescind that parole decision, and we are required then to give you a subsequent hearing, and that's where we're at today.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want you to tell us why you think we should grant you parole.
Well, I understand that when I first became incarcerated that I had done something wrong and that I just tried to better myself the entire time I was there. I knew that I had to make a decision as to where to do things to better myself or to get myself in a better situation to be a better man. And that's what I've been trying to do the whole time.
Let's hear from the folks who are here with you. Mr. Myers, could we hear from you, please?
Yes, good morning. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. And we're here for Mr. Murray. We've been supporting Mr. Murray since before his initial grant. We continue to support him. Parole Project will, should this board re-grant him today, Parole Project will provide reentry services. Because Mr. Murray is a Graham lifer, he was a juvenile when this offense was committed, and he does have registration requirements. He will go reside with his aunt. However, we have a case manager in New Orleans who will ensure that Mr. Murray receive support from him. He will also come at least 2 days a week for programming initially to complete phase 1 while he's in our program. We'll additionally work with our employment enhancement team to find him employment once he is released. We believe that Mr. Murray met the requirements of the board the first time when he was granted through no fault of his own. It took more than 9 months to complete Steve Hoyle. We just asked this board to re-grant his parole today, and we'll continue to provide the reentry support that he needs.
Mr. Stevenson, we'd like to hear from you.
Hello, this is Ricardo Stevenson speaking. I'm Armando's uncle and godfather. I'm going to will to try to help him get back into the community, help him get to and fro to the job, help him with his training, and also interface with the parole board of the committee to make sure that we are all on the same page with the same accord. Right now, I'm an older guy. I'm 73 years old, so I have a limited amount of capacity, not like I was when Monty first went in. I used to be a business agent for the Carpenters Local. I think my volume went off.
And we heard you. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I heard some clicking noise, but anyway, I just want to be still that means of support for Armando since his mother and father has already passed, and I want to be there for him so that he can have the support and the housing and the wisdom and understanding that he needs from an older guy that knows, who's been around this society for quite some time. I wish that you re-grant his parole and offer him an opportunity to come back into the community. And I ask this to all the board members to consider. He's been there almost 30 years. I mean, that's quite some time. So if they've seen changes in him as what he's been doing in the last past couple of 4 or 5 years, because he took a lot of training, welding, mechanic school. He's teaching other inmates over there as well. So, that's all good information. It's all something that you look for a parolee. Thank you.
Yes, sir, and thank you for sharing those remarks with us. Could we hear from Miss Griselle? Would you tell us what you can about Mr. Murray?
Mr. Murray was in the 6-month program. He has not only completed our required programs, but he has volunteered to be a facilitator in the sex offender group that we have here. All the counselors have reported that he's gone above and beyond what he was required to do while he's been here. So we don't have any complaints on it.
All right, well, thank you very much. Ms. Hutchinson, we'd like to hear from you, please.
Okay. So good morning, board, our committee. So again, today Armando is seeking to have his parole restored. In September of last year, after an interview and statements by both the supporters and opposition, Armando was granted parole by this committee with the condition. The proximity of his last substance abuse write-up led the committee to require him to complete the speed for a long-term substance abuse program. However, as you stated, it was about a 4-month delay from September to January before he was actually able to be transported to Speed Hall in Bossier. Because the language of the condition was specific to Speed Hall, we couldn't get him into any long-term substance abuse program that was available at Angola. He had to specifically go there. He successfully completed the program within the 6 months allotted, as they stated. But unfortunately, it placed him exactly at 10 months past the hearing date, and policy 07711 states that he has to come back before the board for that. Again, through no fault of his own. But again, now that we've covered that, I would like to go over with the committee and highlight some of the things that the previous committee saw. I think Mr. Freeman was the only person who was a part of that hearing that day. And I know y'all have a record of it, but if I can just highlight a couple of things. Armando went to prison at 17 years old. As Terry said, he was a ground. And he has made some monumental changes in his life, which is honestly what we expect from ground minors, right? And the subsequent cases that follow that acknowledge that juveniles are reckless and impulsive and have heedless risk-taking behaviors, but that those behaviors are not well formed and those traits are not that fixed, and that the possibility for change is so much greater. And that's what we see with Armando, right? In 2000, when he graduated and got his GED, he went on to become an academic tutor for over a decade, helping countless individuals learn to read and others obtain their GED. He did the risk management program at Angola, and by 2003, he was actually taught by the author of the risk management program on how to be a peer facilitator, which was why he was able to help out at Steve Hoyle once he finished his program, and not to be idle, but to continue to help others. And I do believe that Armando believes that as you continue to help others, you remind yourself of those that you victimized as well, so that you don't make those same mistakes again. He's went out of his way to help others. The previous package, which I provided to y'all, also showed that he opened Kingdom Business Ministries while at Angola, collecting community product coupons, where he's raised over $30,000 while he was there for Catholic schools, to have equipment for classrooms, supplies, and things like that. He has a strong reentry plan supported by the Louisiana Parole Project, as Terry stated. We'll transport him in. He'll go to classes. He has a welding certificate, certification from Angola up to level 2, which we can put him into programming. That'll get him kind of certified on the outside so that he can go into those programs. And his aunt and uncle are there to support him. Armando, after 28 years in prison, does not pose a threat to society. He's definitely learned from his mistakes. And looking at his maturity and rehabilitation today and having addressed the concerns of the previous committee, we humbly just ask the committee to not penalize Armando and rescind his parole for reasons outside of his control. And again, grant his parole with any conditions the board deems necessary. I did put into the memo I sent the conditions of the previous parole, just, I know y'all have access to it, but I did place them in there, also. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Murray, your case has been assigned to Mr. Prater. Would you answer his questions, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Murray, just so that I understand, I was not on the last panel that granted you parole, but you were granted parole under the condition that you complete the Steve Hoyle program. And as soon as you did that, you would be released. No fault of your own, it's taken longer to get you there to the facility where you could take this. And so that kicked it back to us to reconsider. Is that the way you understand it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I wanted to make sure I understood that too, because I wasn't on the original panel to decide to release you, but they did vote unanimously to release you, conditional upon that. And that's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Mr. Freeman?
I have no question.
All right, I just have one question for you, Mr. Murray. Again, I was not at the parole hearing either. I see the vote and who was there, and it was a unanimous vote. And I'm most impressed with your community service work that you did within your own prison community, both there at Steve Hoyle and before you got there. But I'd like you to tell us somewhere along the way, I don't have all your programs here. Yeah, you did. You took victim awareness. If you could speak to your victim, what would you say to Ms. Bacchus?
First of all, I would just like to say how terribly sorry I am for, causing the hurt and pain that, I know I caused in that person's life. I'm not the same person that I was then, and I truly understand that, I made a terrible mistake. I can't just continue to say how much that, by going through the programs and, taking victim awareness here in Steve Hall and in Angola, that it makes you realize that your bad choices affect other people so it impacts their lives so much that, I just, I would like to say I'm sorry, but I don't even think that sorry would be enough to really convey how I feel about the situation.
Right. I think we're ready to vote, and Mr. Prater will be voting first.
Because of the respect and the decisions and all of the previous panel that granted your parole, and because of the fact that you've spent 30 years in jail, and the fact that you have done through all the programming required, plus you seem very contrite with and with the harm that you've done, and for that I vote to concur with the previous panel and to vote for your parole.
Mr. Freeman?
Okay, Mr. Moore, as stated by your attorney, I did vote for you in the past. So I'm not going to change my vote today. I still vote for you to get out. I'm still going to leave the same conditions on you that I had before, that you are to stay out of St. Tammany Parish. And that if you ever come into contact with the victim, come into contact with the victim, you will turn around and walk away at all costs.
Yes, sir.
Stay away from the victim.
Right, and Mr. Murray, I do agree. I respect the decision of the previous panel. My vote today is to grant to the parole project transition plan. I know you're going to be back and forth from New Orleans with the same special conditions as stipulated by Mr. Freeman. So good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
That concludes our business in Bossier. Thank you, Ms. Griselle, for our comments. We're going to sign off at 11:28. right. Good morning. The Committee on Parole is reconvening. We're now at Claiborne Parish Detention Center. Is there any, would the staff at Claiborne introduce yourself for the record? Good morning. We'd like staff to introduce themselves for the record. You're on mute still.
Captain Glass.
Okay, thank you, Captain. We appreciate you accommodating us today. And this is Mr. Burns before us. Mr. Burns, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
BYRUSS Burns, DOC number 552408.
All right, Mr. Burns. My name is Cheryl Renatza. This is Mr. Prater. Mr. Freeman seated to my right. You see Mr. Prater on the screen. That we comprise your parole panel today. Let me acknowledge we have some guests joining us by Zoom. I don't see them on the screen, but we have Kiara Green, Jaquana Barnes, and Gracie Oliver, all who want to speak on your behalf, and we'll ask them to do so at the appropriate time. First, Mr. Burns, I'm going to read some identifying information into the record, and then we'll have a conversation with you about the parole. Mr. Burns, you're classified as a second felony offender. You're currently serving a 7-year sentence. You were sentenced in Webster Parish, September 13th, 2019, for carnal knowledge of a juvenile. You do have a parole eligibility date later this year. It's December 6th. You don't earn good time, and your full term date is September 5th, 2026. Does all that sound correct to you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So take a moment, Mr. Burns, and tell us why you believe we should grant you parole today.
Kind of nervous. Okay. Yes, ma'am. I feel like I've learned how to ID and assess risk factors and learn how to deal with them and use interventions to help from getting myself in trouble again.
Let's see. Here's my list. We're gonna ask you some questions in a minute, but first we'd like to ask your mother, Miss Oliver, what would she like us to know? Is she on the line, Miss Oliver? Oliver? Must be having some technical difficulties. Oh, there she is. You're still on mute, ma'am. Can you unmute your microphone?
It's on mute.
There you go. Okay, go ahead. What would you like us to know?
Well, I feel that he is a good person and he just got caught up, but he planned on going back to school and he got 2 kids that need him. His son is in the 12th grade, going to graduate, so he need to be out, get a job to help his son to get himself a college. And his daughter is in junior high and they need him very bad. And I need him because he always helped me around the house to do the things that I can't do since I don't have but one hand. And he mostly do the driving for me because my eyesight is not that good.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. Could we hear from Miss Taquana Burns?
Hello.
Hello. Ms. Burns, what would you like us to know?
Oh, yes, ma'am. My name is Taquana. I'm currently at work. That's why I had to have my video. Yes, ma'am. I work, I'm a nurse and I actually work in, at Smith County Jail, as a mental health nurse, doing these, evaluations. So, I've spoken with my brother, on some, interventions and, spoke to some counselors over here to try to help him get into counseling. And I have one that's ready and willing to help him any way that she can. So I mean, if I told him if he do his part, we'll do ours, and I do have a counselor ready to help him because I told him it's going to take some work, it's going to take some counseling.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. We appreciate the work that you do and the support of your brother. And
Yes,
do we have Sarah Green with us also?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
I am BYRUSS's partner. We have known each other since we were both teenagers, but we have only been together for 4 years. I do not condone BYRUSS's behavior at all, but I am a firm believer in rehabilitation. Me and his sister have spoken about continual counseling. Me and BYRUSS have talked about continual counseling. If granted the opportunity, we would continue doing outpatient counseling as well as doing gainful employment. I do have money aside for counseling, should that be necessary. And yes, he is needed for his family, and everybody's missing him. That's all I would like to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Your case has been assigned to Mr. Prater, Mr. Burns. Would you answer his questions, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Burns. How are you?
I'm just fine. How are you?
How old are you right now?
37.
Okay. You were arrested in 2008 or 2009 for felony carnal knowledge of a juvenile. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How old was that juvenile?
She was 13 years old.
And how old were you at the time?
31.
You were 31 and she was 13.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You received, did you plead guilty to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you were placed on probation for some reason, 5 years probation. And then in 2009, you were revoked from that probation, not even a year into your sentence, or a year into your probation, you're revoked. What was that for?
Okay, I think I got the dates mixed up. I thought you were talking about discharge.
You're talking about your early charge, your first charge.
Right, okay, yeah, that I don't remember the ages from that time. I believe it was 16 and 19. I'm not sure.
Well, if it was 2000, say if it's 2014 years ago, how old were you?
23.
Okay. So you were 23 and she was how old?
I can't remember. I think it was 14, 15. I'm not sure.
Okay, she was a lot younger than you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you pled guilty to carnal knowledge of a juvenile, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you were placed on parole, on probation, 5 years probation.
Yes,
And a year into that, less than a year into that, you're revoked.
Yes,
For
sir.
what reason?
I believe some family members, my brother's daughters, came to visit my grandmother at the residence that I was registered at, and my probation officer came by, and they were there. I wasn't at the residence, but that's the reason I got revoked. They didn't know that they couldn't be at the residence.
Okay, it also had something to do with sex offender counseling, non-compliance, and not paying your supervisory fees, correct?
Yes, sir. But in court, he also stated that I was still in good standing with that.
What about the compliance for the sex offender counseling?
Yes, sir. I was in compliance with that. There was a date that I missed, but I talked to the counselors there and they gave me another date that I could come in and make it up, and I did make up that date.
Okay, let's fast forward to this, your instant charge that you're asking for parole on now.
Yes, sir.
And tell me, how old were you when this occurred?
Okay, this is the one. I was 31 years old.
You were 31, and how old was the young lady?
13.
She was 13.
Yes, sir.
And you pled guilty to carnal knowledge of a juvenile on this, or no, excuse me, you pled guilty to indecent behavior with a juvenile, correct?
I thought it was carnal knowledge, sir.
Okay, I think it was indecent behavior, but well, we won't argue about that. You were okay. I think you're correct. Now I'm talking about the older one. So we're okay. Carnal knowledge, 12 years old. And let's see, you received a sentence of 7 years on this one.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and now you're asking to get out early. Your full-time date's September of 26, but
Yes,
you're
sir.
asking to get out early.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just let me ask you this, Mr. Burns. Why should I trust you, for instance, around any little girl?
Like I mentioned, I've learned how to identify my risk factors and the situations that I can get myself in. I know how to deal with them. I have much support to help deal with those.
Yeah, I'm not sure how good a risk you are, Mr. Burns, to be honest with you. But anyway, that's all the questions I got while I ponder and listen to the questions that my other board members might have.
Yes, sir.
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Burns,
Yes, ma'am.
on the instant offense, you said your victim was 13. And how old did you tell her you were?
I think it was 19.
Let me make you aware that there is opposition to your early release by your sentencing judge, the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, chief of police, and the attorney general's office. You do score, although your criminal risk factor is low, your static 99, which is a risk factor that we look at specifically for sex offenders, that scores out as moderate risk to reoffend, which is concerning.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had any sex offender treatment since you've been in jail this time?
Yes, ma'am. I completed get the name of it.
Where were you housed? Did it?
Yes, I was at Bayou Dorcheat.
Okay, so that's that. Yeah. Okay, so that's the risk management. How many phases did you complete?
4 phases. Phases 1 through 4.
Did you ever help facilitate?
Ma'am?
Did you ever help teach the class?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
We weren't given an option to do so.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't have any other questions. I think that the panel is prepared to vote, and Mr. Prater will be voting first.
So, Mr. Burns, I wish you well. I know you are sorry that all this happened and that you are apologetic and whatever else, but I'm sorry I can't vote. My vote is to deny your parole request.
Mr. Freeman?
Mr. Burns, I mean, due to you being on probation for this prior to this and then doing it again, my vote is the same. I feel that you're still a risk to the public safety.
And Mr. Burns, as I mentioned the opposition that was expressed in your moderate risk assessment score. My vote today also is to deny your parole. So today you've been denied. We wish you well. Good luck to you, sir.
All right, thank you.
That concludes our business in Claiborne. We're signing off at 11:49.
We can try to have it.
All right, good morning. We are now, the parole panel is now in Caldwell Parish. It is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. It's 11:53 a.m. Is there any staff there in the room with you, Mr. Kevin?
Yes, ma'am.
Like them to introduce themselves for the record.
Yes, ma'am. This is Lieutenant Tatum, Head of Transportation.
And
Okay.
Kylie Hendricks, Transition Specialist.
All right, thank y'all so very much for accommodating us today. We'd like for you, Mr. Kevin, to introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, ma'am. Kevin Dwayne Marange, DOC number 517762.
Mr. Marange, I wouldn't have pronounced it that way. Thanks for
Yeah.
Well, my name is Cheryl Renatza, and Mr. Freeman is seated here with me in Baton Rouge. Our other panel member, Mr. Prater, is on the Zoom, joining us virtually. And let me acknowledge your friend Desiree Murray, who will speak on your behalf at the appropriate time. You've been through this process before, have you not? I
Yes,
think.
ma'am, January of 2023.
Right, so you know the drill. Let's just jump right in.
Yes, ma'am, I do know it.
Today, you're classified as a third felony offender. You're currently serving 10-year sentence. You were sentenced in 2021 as a habitual offender, aggravated obstruction of highway, possession of Xanax, heroin, methamphetamine, buprenorphine, clonazepam, another Xanax charge, and possession with intent to distribute methamphetamine. Your parole eligibility was March 11, 2023, and your good time release date is September 15 of 2029. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were previous hearing, as you said, January 5th of 2023. Why don't you take a few minutes and tell us, Mr. Marange, why you believe we should vote favorably for you today?
Yes, ma'am. Well, when I got to Caldwell, I realized I was an addict. I never really told myself I was an addict, but I realized I was an addict. And I set 2 goals for myself: to get help from my addiction, to get a job. And I kept doing the same things, getting the same result over and over. I ended up in jail. Okay, I got a job as a trustee working in the kitchen as a dishwasher. I moved up from dishwasher to baker to head cook. And now I've been a kitchen manager for the last year, where I take care of all inventory, all the ordering of the food, making sure the food's prepared daily and 3 meals are gotten out on time and correct. I'm second in charge of our IWF program, where I write up all the tray orders. I make sure that the food's all put on the tray correctly and that they're all delivered intact on time. And I'm also in charge of the inventory there. It's something I'm proud of, my accomplishments I've made on my trustee status. I've taken, last time we met, Ms. Jackson called me out on my acknowledged to my addiction. And I took it to heart. I took those words to heart. I took classes, substance abuse classes. I took phase 1 and 2 of Louisiana risk management, where I learned what it was an addict was. And I've learned how an addict functions. I learned triggers. I learned what not to do, how to remove myself if I have thoughts of using drugs, how to or being around people who are using drugs, I can no longer do that. As an addict, as a recovering addict, I cannot be around it. I have to change my whole way of thinking, my whole way of living. I've taken several other classes, thinking for a change. I've taken anger management, where throughout my life, my addiction, my way of settling things was with my hands, fight. I learned, that there's a better way. You can sit down and talk to somebody. You can agree to disagree. You don't have to handle it in a fighting situation. I was taught to be man up, but now I realize that's not being a man. A man doesn't go around fighting. A knowledgeable man settles his differences with words, not his hands. I've learned to be a better person and understanding others, to give them their room, to give me mine, and so on. In the past, that's how I handle my situation, and it's gotten me nowhere. It's just gotten me the same place in jail. My classes that I've taken here have brought me a long ways in my recovery. But I know, in order for me, I need to take the next step. I need help. I realize that. I'll be a recovering addict my whole life. I realize that. But with the skills I've learned here and my determination, my want to be, I want to be the best father I can be, the best uncle I can be, the best friend I can be, the best brother I can be. And you can't do that as an addict. I'll be 59 years old next month. that part of me, that lifestyle, the fast lifestyle, the easy money, the drugs and all, has no room in my life anymore. And I've taken steps, I've taken classes to ensure, I've learned skills to ensure that it doesn't. And I just want to, I'm here asking the board today, is let me make, I'm begging you, I'm pleading with you, let me take the next step forward. I need intensive treatment with licensed counselors so I can ensure I can have every tool at my disposal to be successful. And that's what I want to be. I want to be a success. I don't want to be a return. I want to be a recovering addict, a successful recovering addict. Throughout my life, I've used drugs and it's gotten me nowhere but in trouble, jail. I pushed away family and friends. They're now back in my life. I got a good support system out there. I know that, you know, once I am released, I will have to, my first business order of business will be to get up with NA, Narcotics Anonymous and Alcohol Anonymous. Just give me a sponsor. I know there's help out there for me, that I don't have to do it on my own. But today I'm asking the board to please give me the next step that I need in my recovery, and that's the intensive treatment.
But it sounds like you've given it a lot of thought. We'll be asking you some questions in a minute, but first we'd like to hear from Miss Murray. What would she like us to know? You're still on mute.
Okay. There you go. Okay, gave me the option. Okay, well, hi, my name is Desiree, and I am here to show my support for Kevin. I've known Kevin for about 7 years now, and he's a really great guy. And wow, his speech has me just like absolutely speechless right now to hear him say all those things I've waited so long to hear him say. It's amazing. But I would like to attest that I have seen significant changes in him already. I see him, when I speak to him, the way that he speaks about moving forward in his life is just amazing. Like, I know that he is definitely ready to move on and continue in a positive manner. I know how hard he's worked to overcome all the mistakes he's made. And like I said, I've seen this growth personally from who he was to who he has become. And I want you to know that I am committed to support Kevin also in his journey. Hopefully, you know, outside here with us. I have a very strong church group. And we pray for Kevin a lot, and they are eager to also, you know, support Kevin and give him all the support that he needs to, you know, be, you know, to continue out in a, you know, faithful journey. If you say, I just really believe in, you know, that faithfulness. And I have so much to say. It's all in my head. I'm sorry. But I know Kevin can and will be a positive member of society. I'm definitely 100% to that. And I just want you to know that I have prayed that that you would hopefully grant him parole today. And I don't really know what else to say because he said a lot. Good job.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Marange, your case has been assigned to Mr. Freeman. Would you answer his questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Marange?
Marange? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna just call you Mr. Kevin.
That's
okay,
good.
Mr. Kevin. First off, you know, she said it. You said all the right things. Now it's up to us to determine whether we believe you or not.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I can absolutely tell you, you have covered all the bases and said everything. You've even mentioned what I had looked at in doing with you today already. But I do have a few questions. Is the captain still in there with you?
Lieutenant,
yes, sir.
Lieutenant, have y'all had any problems with him? Tell me about his behavior since he's
no,
been.
sir. Since he arrived here at Caldwell, getting his job in the kitchen, he has been an inmate that always took charge, and There was no drama, no disciplinary write-ups from him. He moved up quickly from dishwasher to baker. Now he's one of our head cooks. It's a good cook at that too. And he just been all around a good guy.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant. I appreciate that. Your problem's drugs. What is the most drugs you've ever had on you at one time? Be honest with me.
I would say the most drugs, a user usually has the most drugs I've probably had on me at one time would be a half an ounce of methamphetamine. It's probably about the most I've ever had on me at one time.
So were you
quality or quantity or?
No, I was just talking quantity. I was just trying to get, were you selling to use?
Yes, sir, I was. Yes, sir, I was.
And but you wasn't making a whole lot of money off of it. Obviously, it was going right back for more drugs.
Correct. I was using, yes, sir.
You over 50. Usually that's when people, usually in their 40s, they grow out of their addictions. I'm a little worried about that because it's taking you longer than others to realize that, this has just dominated your life. So that does give me a little concern. You're a third felony offender.
Yes, sir.
You did complete Blue Walters in 2016, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, you just wasn't ready for it then? You just kind of went through the program to get out? Tell me the truth.
No, sir, I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't committed to it. It was just somewhere they sent me at the time. I don't know if it was ordered or whatever, but no, sir, I wasn't committed to it. I did not commit myself to it, and I realize now that, I'm committed to this. I'm very committed to this. I'm very committed to my recovery. As you said, I'm 59 years old and I'm determined. This is the last chance for me. This is it. So, and I know this. And
let's talk about a little bit about the instant offense. When you was at the hotel room, what happened? I mean, they came to arrest you and you ran, or what? How did that go down?
No, sir, no, sir. Actually, I was in my vehicle. The drugs were back at the hotel. I was in my vehicle when they pulled us over, and they arrested me on a bench warrant for failure to appear. And I had the motel card with me, and I had a passenger with me. And I guess they went off for seeing the motel card, questioning the passenger. They got a warrant and went back to the room. And that's where they found the drugs.
Okay, so y'all never had a police chase where you reached speeds of 120?
No, that was the second time. That was the second time I was arrested for alcohol. Yes, sir. I had drugs on me then, and when the police got behind me, my only thought in my head was at that time was to get rid of the drugs. And once I got rid of the drugs, I pulled over.
You've had 2 prior periods of supervision which were revoked due to drug activity. So, our main concern is that, are you going to stay off the drugs and trying to give you the things that we think you need to stay off? I see you have 1 child. Do you have contact with your children?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. I will say you have law enforcement opposition, and one of them said that you're a career criminal. You never had a job. Have you gotten any trades since you've been down?
Oh, no, sir. I've owned my own company. I'm a painting special coatings. I'm a painting contractor. I've worked all my life.
Okay. You were denied in 123, and they told you, you needed more programs, which you took.
Yes, sir.
You have 0 disciplinary write-ups. What's going to be your residence, employment, and sobriety plan?
My residence employment is my sister. I think they checked the address in my sister's house. And my employment is I have several jobs waiting on me as a painter. I plan on working for somebody else for a year or so, whatever it takes me to get my own equipment, and then I plan on getting my own company going again.
Okay, let's talk about the main one. What you gonna do when you're out there to stay sober?
My first order of business is to get with NA, Narcotics Anonymous. There's one right there in my area in AA, and get a sponsor and attend regular meetings. And then also we're going to get with Desiree has a church group that they're behind me. They have a little thing there for people who have alcohol problems and drug problems, and they meet. So I plan on having a sponsor. I've got a great support group waiting on me, and I plan on doing all I can do to have the support of the people that I need supporting me. I
Okay.
have yes, sir.
All right, I have no further questions, Mr. Mata. I have a recommendation for the board.
Mr. Prater? Oh, I think you're on mute.
A couple of things I wanted to ask you about.
Yes, sir.
There's some arrests in your past that involve violence.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that. Was that while you were on drugs or seeking drugs, or what was the deal?
It was probably, to be honest with you, probably a little bit of both, sir. It was probably while I was on them, or may have been seeking them at the time.
Okay, give me a date for the last time you committed a violent act while you were on drugs or seeking drugs.
That would be probably 2015.
Okay, what would you do?
It wasn't, I was dating a girl, and we were both using drugs, and she had her mother living with her, and we would get in heated arguments when we would get in heated arguments, and we had gotten one of these arguments, and the neighbors had called the police. We had both splashed each other with the drinks we had in our hands, and when the police came, they arrested me for cruelty to the elderly. And I think that's considered a violent crime. I manned up, I pleaded guilty to it, and I was sentenced to 4 years.
What did you do though? They didn't arrest you for cruelty or abuse of the elderly for throwing a drink in somebody's face.
Well, no, some of the drink went on her mother, and when police got there, she was hysterical, so they did arrest me for that.
And they gave you 4 years for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Right. Mr. Marange, you said since you've been at Caldwell, or since your hearing when Ms. Jackson challenged you to face your addiction, what do you think took you so long?
I just didn't know how to go about it. Didn't know exactly what to do. Really didn't want to be labeled an addict, because I really never thought of myself as that. But through the classes and all that I've taken, I've come to realize I am an addict, and I will be recovering addict.
You weren't ready to face it.
No, ma'am, I wasn't.
So you mentioned you're going to be living with your sister. That's Linda.
Correct.
3rd Street, 3rd Avenue.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Seems like okay. I don't have any other questions. I think the panel is prepared to vote. Mr. Freeman?
I'm prepared to vote. Mr. Murray, I look at everything you've done since you've been back in, and you have done the right things. You took the classes as we stated, but I agree with you 100% in the fact that you need a strong substance abuse program. So my vote today is going to be to grant conditional on you completing a long-term DOC substance abuse treatment. You know, sit there. It looks like you're getting a lot out of things. You have a terrible past. I mean, as he said, that cruelty to an infirm, I wrote that down. I'm glad Mr. Prater pointed it out. That's what happens when you're on drugs. You do stupid things.
Yes, sir.
So that's my vote today. And also, upon release, you follow any of their conditions. You go to at least 3 AA meetings a week, attend that search group, with Miss Murray. And, also, have a 9 PM to 6 AM curfew unless your job requires you to be out at that time.
So, thank you.
Mr. Prater?
I concur with that. I think that's good catch there, Mr. Freeman. Thank you.
Ms. Marangé, I do agree. I liked your interview today. I could tell that, you impressed your friend there that's willing to support you and help you. She was very proud of what you said, and I believe you mean it. So my vote today is the same, to grant with the same special conditions stated by Mr. Freeman. Reasons for my vote is just what I said, plus the fact that you do score out as a low risk to read. So good luck to you, sir. Sit on the front row. Beginning that program, sit on the front row.
I will. Thank you.
All right. All right. That concludes our business in Caldwell, Lieutenant. We're going to sign off at 12:16.
Thank you.
Woo!
All right, good morning. Oh, no, it's afternoon. Good afternoon. The Committee on Parole is reconvening. We're at Franklin Parish Detention Center. Today is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024, and it's 12:28 p.m. My name is Cheryl Renatza, serving as chairman of today's parole panel. Seated with me here in Baton Rouge is Mr. Freeman, and Mr. Prater has joined us by Zoom. We are your parole panel today. Would any staff at Franklin Parish introduce yourself for the record? Is there any staff in the room there with you? Your couch? There we go. Yeah.
Yes, I'm Lieutenant Ford.
I'm sorry, would you repeat your name, sir?
Lieutenant Ford, Franklin Parish Detention Center.
All right, thanks, Lieutenant, for accommodating us today. We appreciate it.
Welcome.
We have one case there at Franklin. Mr. Michael, would you introduce yourself to the panel? Tell us your name and DOC number.
Michael Couch, 750-999.
Yeah, that's what I have. You heard the introductions here. Before we get started, let me acknowledge the folks who've joined us by Zoom. There with you, I see two people. We have your father, Michael Couch Sr., Candace Couch. Is that your wife?
Yes, ma'am.
And Madeline Couch, is she there with you?
She is.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I can't. Yeah, there we go. All right, and then I see we have quite a few people that have joined us by Zoom. I only have listed Marla West, your sister. Would the other folks like to enter their names for the record?
That's my sister and my other two daughters.
My name's Mallory. I'm the middle daughter.
I'm Mariel Couch. I'm his youngest daughter.
All right.
I'm Diane Rocco, his dada.
Okay. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Mr. Couch, let me read some identifying information into the record, after which I'll ask you to confirm it. We're going to ask you to give us a statement. We'll hear from, I don't have an indication of who wants to be speaking. We allow 3 people to speak for a total of 10 minutes. And so we'll decide that once you do your statement. Then we'll start the parole interview before we vote.
Ma'am.
So you are Michael S. Couch. You mentioned your DOC number. You are classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving a 5-year, 6-month sentence for indecent behavior with juveniles, 5 counts. Yeah. Let's see. Your parole eligibility date was determined January 9th, 2022. You do not earn good time, and your full term date is September 10th, 2025. Is that information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So before we get started with the rest of the process, I'd like for you, Michael, to take a few moments to tell us why you believe we should grant you an early release, considering you entered a plea agreement for the sentence.
Yes, ma'am. First, I'd like to start by saying that I'm truly remorseful for my negative actions in the past, and to everyone that is directly and indirectly affected. Over the past years, I've tried to show that remorse in every way that I can, although I was limited to contact as well as resources. And I just want to do everything that I can to prove that. I feel like that I've learned from my mistakes, and I can take full responsibility without letting it dictate the man that I am today and choose to become even moving forward. Now, I want to say that I'm truly thankful for the support that I've had over the past years with my wife of 27 years, as well as my 3 daughters and family and friends. And I feel like that I've taken every opportunity that I can to better myself, as with every class that's been available to me, and even facilitating those. I've been a trustee since November of 2020, and I've been working in the reentry department since September of 2021. And like I said, I've taken every opportunity that I can to to make the best of bad situation, and I want to put the past behind me and move forward and, you know, get back to my family and fulfill the life that I once had and continue to do better.
Let's hear from the folks who want to speak on your behalf, and I'll ask, I'm assuming that's going to be the folks that are in the room with you.
Yes,
And first, I'd like to hear, as I mentioned, folks, we have a total of 10 minutes, so I'll ask your father, Mr. Couch Sr., to start. I guess I'm assuming he wants to speak.
Yes.
Well, on behalf of Stephen, I want to say that I know that he is very missed by his family. He was the center of his family's life, and his actions took him out of that. And I would like to see him back in there for their sake and their strength. And I do believe he will be all he needs to be for his family.
Thank you so much. All right, anybody else?
I'm his wife, Candy, and we've been married for 27 years. We have 3 daughters. And as his dad said, Stephen is the center of our world. We have stood behind Stephen and supported him through all of this. He will be coming home to a family that's been waiting on him, to a family that needs him. Our youngest daughter is 16, and she, you know, needs her dad in her life, especially in this day and time. And I know that Stephen is very, very remorseful and sorry for his actions and for the pain that he caused the victims, and just not the victims, but their family, and also to his family and to his friends. And he is a great father, a wonderful husband. His work ethics, you just can't compare anything to it. He has out here, he has a good name in his job that he does out here. And just humbly asking if you would please grant him early parole on his first parole. There was some stipulations that was put, and he has done everything that was asked of him since that first parole hearing. And I would just like to find favor, I guess, and seek an early parole.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Madeline. I'm his oldest daughter, and like my mom said, Dad has a really good name for himself out here, and he's always worked extremely hard and supported us. And in my opinion, he was the best dad a kid could ever ask for. And I've talked to my dad a lot since he's been in here, and I've seen that, you know, he is very sorry, and he has learned, and he's always told us to take full responsibility for our actions, and I truly believe that he has. And we love him, our family loves him, and we're going to be here to support him every step of the way.
Right. Well, thank y'all. It's good to see such good family support. You did have a hearing in February of 22, and there was a note made that you needed sex offender treatment. So you were able to take the sex offender treatment class?
Yes, ma'am. I was currently in it at the time. I just had not completed it, but I completed all 4 phases, as well as victim impact, thinking for a change, understanding and reducing anger management. I've done the pre-release program and as well as facilitated it, and more classes. I've done IC3 computer software and CBI employment. I don't know. Every class that's been available to me out here, I've been a part of, and like I said, facilitated as well. And I'm currently facilitating in the pre-release program.
You mentioned victim awareness, I believe, did you not?
Yes, ma'am, I took that.
And tell us what you believe, you know, what did you get out of that as it relates to the crime you committed, considering the position you held and what you did.
Exactly. Growing up, like I said, I was very protected and lived and had the best home life and that type of thing. And so going through victim awareness as well as the Louisiana treatment or whatever with the 4 phases, I mean, a lot of things were brought to my attention that I just really was not aware of. And the effect, that it has on so many others other than the direct victims, and the ripple effect that it can have, and not realizing how important your choices are, that it not only affects you, but affects so many around you. And I learned a lot from that.
There is some pretty strong opposition to early, consideration for early release. The adamant opposition from the district attorney's office. There's law enforcement opposition, and there's victim opposition. And there, I did mention that you're serving time for 5 counts, but there's an indication in the record that we have access to that there were more victims than that. When was your last disciplinary write-up?
I've never had a disciplinary write-up.
You never had a write-up?
No, ma'am.
Let me just look real quick. Well, it's an incident report, excuse me. There was an incident report that involved you in January of 2022.
I've never seen an incident report.
It has to do with a sex offense. That's all I'll say. And I made note of it because I noticed that you completed your sex offender treatment in September of 2022. And this is an incident that took place in January 2022 at the jail, which is concerning for me. I don't have any other questions. I'll defer to my colleagues to see if they have any questions. Mr. Freeman?
My question to you, Mr. Couch, you was in a position of power, just like, us as law enforcement officials, we're in a position of power, and when we abuse that, we lose all of the faith of the public, and I'm sure you realize that. But what is there to, you did it, and then you would go apologize. So you knew what you were doing was wrong, but what can you tell me that can make me feel comfortable that you won't do it again?
Well, like I said, just realizing the hurt that I've caused, not only the victims and those involved with that, but my family. And I just honestly feel like that my choices moving forward is just to be a much better man and to be the best for my family that I can be, and to never put anyone through that hardship again.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Prater?
So, Mr. Couch, are you, when you get out, are you going to have to sign up as a sex offender?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it indefinite?
Sir?
Is it indefinite that you'll have to sign up?
It's definite that I will have to.
I mean, I know you will, but how long will that last? Do you know?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's 15 years.
Just 15 years. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And you took a reduced plea. What was your plea? What did they reduce the plea from?
I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was molestation.
Okay, right. That's correct. That's 5 counts. Were there others?
Sir?
Were there other counts that people
Not
didn't charge
aware
you?
of. Yes, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
So you ended up with 5 counts of a reduced charge, 5 different victims, and it works out to where you got a year for each victim.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're going to get out in less than a year anyway, correct?
Yes, sir, that's what it shows.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Prater. I think that the panel's prepared to vote, Mr. Couch. I'll be first. Your case was assigned to me. I'm glad to hear you say the things that you said, where you've given a lot of thought to the trauma, for lack of a better word, that you've caused so many people, and you've reflected on that. However, I mentioned a strong, adamant opposition by the prosecutor, and that's who you entered your plea agreement with, and law enforcement. I'm concerned about the incident report that I mentioned from January of 2022, which caused you to lose your trustee status.
Ma'am, can I say something?
Well, no, I finished with the interview. I'm just looking at the documentation I have on record. My vote today is going to be to deny your parole. Mr. Freeman?
Mine is also law enforcement opposition and victim opposition.
Mr. Prater?
I vote to deny also because of the fact that he only got 5 years to reduce plea. Like I said, that only equates to a year for each victim. And for a serious crime like this with such an impact on the victims and the victim's family, I think that he needs to finish on out his sentence.
So Mr. Couch, your parole's been denied. We do see your full term date is September 10th, 2025. We do wish you well. Good luck, sir. That concludes our business in Franklin. We'll adjourn at 12:44.
I'm going to the breakout room. Is that correct?
Can you hear us now? Can you hear us? Yes, sir.
Go to the breakout. Okay.